Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 143 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a house cleaning quick because, well, we always like to do it around here, and you guys know it's just a normal shtick. We like to do it around here, so we're going to do it. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep coming back and you keep downloading these episodes. You keep sharing these episodes. You constantly keep letting me know how you feel about them, whether you like them, dislike them, you like my opinion, you don't like my opinion. You know, it's all the same to me because you guys are letting me know how you guys feel. And to me, I feel like that's the most helpful thing is you guys letting me know how you feel about the topics or, you know, how you feel about how I portray this, a lot of the conversations, if I left out details, if I gave enough details, you know, it's a lot of things, to be honest, but I do greatly appreciate your guys' feedback and everything. I do really appreciate it. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the dislikes. And I really do mean it. I really do mean it that I appreciate it because it does help a lot. I do want to say thank you guys for all the love and support. Thank you because we're actually close to 2,050 total downloads. And I do want to say thank you for that because we hit the 2,000 goal before the end of the year. So again, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And it's really crazy. You know, to me, it's crazy, but I thank you guys for that. Hopefully we can hit maybe 2,100 before the end of the year. Let's see. But we just have to wait and see. And I do want to say thank you to the Patreon backers as well, because you guys constantly keep supporting me. So thank you to the Patreon backers. Obviously, we're still in the process of getting everything finalized for the Patreon backers, for specifically reworking the tiers is what we're working on, is basically changing the $2 tier and adding a $5 tier, and also changing the benefits and adding new ones as a result. And I do want to say thank you guys for, well, specifically to the one Patreon backer we've had this whole time. So thank you to your continued support. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can get more. Hopefully we can pull this off, hopefully. But I do also want to say thank you to everyone that's watching on YouTube, because you guys are the most active when it comes to commenting on the videos. And also, you know, for people that follow me on my social medias, because, well, you guys hit me up on my social medias if you have topics that I want to talk about or that you guys want me to talk about. And you guys also let me know how you guys feel about the episode. So I greatly appreciate it. So you can hit my social medias down below. But aside from that, I believe that's pretty much it. So now we can go straight into the episode. And based on the poll that I put on my social media page, again, you can go to the links down below. Follow me on Snapchat, or, well, mostly Instagram and Twitter. But, you know, if you want the Snapchat, you can just hit me up on Instagram. We can go from there. But based on the poll, we're going to be doing a real talk today. And this one has been on my mind for a while now, if I'm being honest with you guys. That it has been on my mind. And for me, it's been interesting, to say the least, if I'm being honest with you. That we're going to be doing a real talk about dealing with burnout. And I know, given this wacky year known as 2020, this is something that we've all dealt with, whether you want to believe it or not. We've all dealt with this throughout this year. And it's a very interesting topic, because if you guys don't know what burnout is, which I would be surprised if you didn't, but if you want to know what it is, the layman's term of explaining is when you're just completely tired of everything, that you feel like you're at your end, that you just don't feel like you have anything left in the tank. And given this crazy year, I wouldn't be surprised. And I personally want to make this real talk special, that I just don't want this to be a one and done, but rather I'd rather this be a two-parter. So I'm saying this now, this is part one, and this one is primarily going to be focusing on how I've dealt with burnout throughout this year, because I'm just being honest, I've dealt with it. I've had to go through with this throughout this year because there's been many instances where I just felt that I just couldn't take anymore. And I do want to open up and share that with y'all, because I feel that the way you can build genuine bonds with people and relationships is when you are willing to be open and be vulnerable and share your experiences. And for me, I'm a very open book. I believe that to have a healthy relationship with people, to be in a healthy team, to do anything in a healthy and efficient manner, there needs to be a level of trust. There needs to be a sense of vulnerability that you have to be willing to open up. And for me, that's what I like doing with the real talks, is I like keeping it real with you guys. That's why we do them, is because it's me being open, being honest, and not pulling my punches. And I feel like based on past experiences with past real talks, we have helped a lot of people. We've encouraged a lot of people with what we talked about here. And I only hope for the same for this one, that we address, dealing with burnout, how I've dealt with it. And then the next one will be, we'll have other people talk about how they've dealt with it throughout this year, because everyone's been handling things differently. But for me, I've had many reasons to feel burned out, to be honest. Like, think about it. I've had to juggle this new job that basically I'm always busy. I've had to deal with school going online, which I don't like learning online. I think it's a very inefficient way of learning. I've had to deal with, still running the show and everything. I've had to deal with family stress, with, things like my grandfather passing away and things like that. And there's been so much going on in my mind. And just being honest, I've also been dealing with a lot of just feeling lonely. That I have been feeling extremely lonely. That I've kind of just felt like a bother to people recently. And to me, these are all results of being a little bit burnt out, because this year has been very exhausting. Like, heck, if I'm being honest with you guys, we're in the middle of final season here in my school, and like, I just really didn't give a crap while doing my test. I really didn't. Like, you can ask my friends, I really didn't care. And to me, that's just a clear example that, that something was wrong. And I do feel like as we go into the winter break for here at campus, I do feel like I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed. I do feel like I'm going to have a little bit more fun, because I won't be so stressed. I won't be so anxious. I won't feel so lonely, because I'll be surrounded by my family and things like that. But to me, it's been a very interesting situation, because like I said, what works for me may not work for you. And that's just cold, hard facts, whether you want to admit it or not, that something that works for me may not work for you, because everyone's experience is different. Everybody's perspective on things is different. And that's okay, because we're all unique. We were all created in a unique manner. But I will say that for me, it's been rough. Like, as I mentioned, like, I've been feeling extremely lonely. I've not really feel like doing anything. And it's been such a hard thing to deal with, because you just don't want to do anything. Like, you just complain. Like, prime example, I'm just putting myself on blast, that I've complained about not having anything to do, yet I don't do anything, like, and I feel like some people have fallen in that same boat, where like, you complain about not having anything to do, yet you don't want to do anything. And I've fallen susceptible to that trap. I'm just being honest. I'm throwing myself under the bus here. And that's just the reality of it. That I haven't been as productive as I can be. That's just me being honest. And I do associate that with being burnt out, because I just felt like I've hit my limit throughout this entire year, because of the stress with COVID, with the stress with all the family stuff, with the stress with school, with work, with the show. Like, there's so many things that I could dial up that basically left me exhausted a little bit. And even now, like, just being honest, while doing this is kind of a side effect of burnout. And I felt like it was healthy that I talk about it, because I'm not going to tell you something or encourage you in a way about something if I haven't been dealing with it myself, because then I'd be a hypocrite. It makes it easier for me to talk about something when you've had experience about it, because I feel like that's much easier, because then you can share your experience and then somebody else shares their experience, and you can bond, you can relate, you can make an effort to empathize with that person, because you can understand a similar feeling of what they're going through. You may not understand it exactly, but that I always tell people, there's always these nice things called universal constants, that no matter what, you may not be able to understand someone 100%, but that doesn't mean that you can't make an effort or at least relate to it in some way. And with me, it's been rough, because I haven't been doing a lot of things that I should be doing. That's just me being honest with you guys. And if it wasn't for the show, if I'm being honest, like, even just the show, if it hasn't been for my amazing friends and family, like, I don't know where I would be, because the show helps keep me focused. It helps keep me motivated. It's like, hey, we get to record the show today. Like, I get excited. I get all jittery. I get to have fun because you guys get to see my reactions. Like, you visually and you verbally can hear it. Like, if you're listening to the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, where we like to listen to these things, you can hear the change in my voice. You can hear the jitters. You can hear the excitement. And if you're watching, you can see my face. And there's no mistaking it. That you can see, you can hear, you can feel. Like, you get that sense because your senses are being engaged. You can hear it. You can see it. You can feel it. And that's just the reality of it. That I just kind of come alive a little bit when I do this stuff. That it kind of brings me out of that gutter, because I get to have fun. I get to, I wouldn't say throw away responsibilities, because being honest, doing the show is also a responsibility, but it's very uplifting. It's a very enjoying or a very joyful experience for me, that it's something that I love doing. And you can tell, because I wouldn't keep doing this if I didn't love doing this. I'm being honest. Like, that would kind of sound stupid to do something that you don't like doing. Like, at that point, I kind of argue you're a bit dumb there, but I enjoy doing this, and it's fun to me. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't also come with stress, like trying to get the episodes on time, edit the episodes, the audio and the video version, like uploading them to YouTube, dealing with camera stuff. And to me, that's just been, I wouldn't say part of the problem, but I feel like that's just helped alleviate a lot of the stress that's been on my shoulders, really. That school, like, yeah, like, I've had many reasons to feel anxious, to feel like, am I really doing the right thing? Like, I've had to ask myself that question this year. I did, when I switched majors, where I was just so burnt out with how engineering was being done here, that I was just like, look, I don't agree with this on a moral, and as a person, I do not agree with how engineering is being presented, and how it almost makes it seem like you always have to, you have to approach it in this very specific mindset that I just don't agree with, because that's just how a lot of people, they just make it seem all doom and gloom, and it almost makes it seem like you have to not have a heart, or you have to be an emotionless robot, which I find it weird, because I always remember when my robotics mentors told me, these are people that will promote engineering to the highest mountain, and this is what they said: we're not trying to build robots, we're trying to build leaders, we're trying to build people, we're trying to build genuine relationships with people by using engineering or robotics as a means to get there. That it's a mediator, that it's using it as a platform. And I've told people this all the time. I did engineering because To me, engineering was a platform to help people. And I felt that from personal experience, I got burnt out because I just felt it wasn't about that anymore. At that point, I was getting stressed about like trying to meet the grade that I needed for the test, or like study as hard as I can, or do the homeworks. And it just got to the point where it didn't feel like I was doing it to help people anymore, that I lost focus and that it didn't really seem that way. And then another opportunity presents itself and it focuses on that. It focuses on building relationships with people. It focuses on being intentional with people. And that was marketing. So that's why I ended up switching to marketing. And to me, you see these examples of burnout, the burnout with engineering, the burnout with work, the burnout with school. You see all these personal examples in my life. And now you're wondering, Josh, how do you deal with it? You have a busy schedule, whether you want to, like, people always think that I just have so much free time on my hands. And well, I do say yes, there's a lot of days where I do have a lot of free time. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of thinking going on in my head that causes me to kind of be immobilized a little bit, be a little bit stuck, where I'm just stuck in my head and just thinking and thinking and thinking. And for me, that's always been the hard part, is when I get stuck in that thinking loop. And I would always say that that kind of really is what causes a lot of the burnout, is that I just overthink a little bit. That's just the reality, if I'm being honest with you, that it's been rough. Like, especially when you add in like the burnout, like just making me feel lonely. And it's not easy, like, because I know a lot of people have felt that way, feeling lonely, of feeling like nobody's there, like nobody wants to spend time with you. That's hard to deal with, that, if I'm being honest. But I always have to remind myself, like, hey, you're not alone. You never are. And I remember vividly a piece of advice that my mentor gave me during Christmas time, when I was dealing with that mindset, where I just felt I was burnt out completely after like a bunch of relationship stuff. That I remember what he told me. He told me, hey, bud, like, I made a slide comment, like, I'll try not to feel lonely. And he's like, hey, let me tell you this. The day that you can say you're alone is the day when all of us that care about you, your mom, your dad, us, everyone that cares about you is no longer there. That's when you can say you're alone. And it's ironic because I finished the rest of it, because I knew he would have said that, but he was running out of time. That I always finished it where, even after all of them are gone, I will never be alone, because I know God is always with me. That was always something my other mentor always told me was, hey, bud, you have to learn to be content with your life when it's just you and God. If you can't do that, you can never be happy when there's someone else there. And that struck a chord with me, because it's like, am I content with my life? Now you're probably thinking, Josh, how does that have anything to do with burnout? And I'm being honest, is I think when I put too much focus and too much emphasis on the wrong things, it burns me out. It tires me out, because I'm trying to find satisfaction. I'm trying to find joy. I'm trying to find fulfillment in things that will not do it. Whether you want to believe it or not, human nature is never satisfied. That's just human nature. It's like, we always want more and more and more. And there's nothing that can give you that, whether you believe it or not. No amount of money will make you happy. No amount of having nice things will make you happy. Having the nicest car will make you happy. The nicest computer, the nicest headphones, phone, whatever, you can fill in the blank. Having this will never satisfy you, and it will just leave you burned out in the end, because you'll get tired. You'll try to make it fulfill your needs, but you end up getting burned out in the end. No perfect grade, nothing will satisfy human nature. but only one thing can. And this is where I talk a little bit about my beliefs, where I, as a Christian, believe that yes, the ultimate satisfaction that can ever be had is in Christ, because he is perfect. He makes no mistakes. He will never leave. He will never abandon you. He'll never hurt you. He'll always take care of you. And the funny thing is that I know that. And yet I still struggle to believe that sometimes. And that's okay, because that's normal. Like, we're humans. We're gonna struggle with things. Whether you want to believe it or not, no one's perfect. But I think that's always the most encouraging thing, is that you're never alone when you go through something. You never are. Yes, you have to do some things on your own, but that doesn't mean you're alone throughout the process. Or let me word it like this. There's a difference between being alone and doing things by yourself. You have to go to the bathroom by yourself. I'm assuming if you are a pretty at least grown-up person that's not a toddler, then yes, you can go to the bathroom by yourself. That doesn't mean that, say you go to a restaurant, your parents don't go to the bathroom with you. You go to the bathroom by yourself. Like, you just go in, use the bathroom, and then leave. Your parents don't go in with you. That doesn't mean you're alone. That just means you have to do it by yourself. And that was something that always had to be hard, especially when dealing with burnout, is that when I get burnt out, I do feel lonely. I do feel tired. I do feel exhausted. Like I'm at the end of myself and I just can't keep going forward. And that's always been the hardest thing, is combating that lie with the truth, which is the truth is you're not alone, bud. You're not. And that's just something that I've had to wrestle with personally. And for me, I can't imagine how somebody else will feel going through burnout, because a lot of people handle it differently. Some people just get completely burnt out and they just give up. Some people don't. Some people do other things. And with me, even though, yes, it's been a bit difficult for me because, like I said, feeling lonely, like physically, emotionally, but I know that I'm never alone. I know that no matter the circumstances, whether I have everything or whether I have nothing, I will learn to be content, because that has always been my way of dealing with burnouts, is learning to be content with your life and finding satisfaction where it's supposed to be found, and not trying to find it in other things, because other things will never fulfill me. And then I just end up being where I'm at. That's why I've had to deal with it multiple times, because I still haven't learned the lesson. But that's part of human nature. You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you keep moving. You don't stop moving. That was always a lesson that my grandfather taught me. And it was ironic, because I knew that piece of advice before I found out my grandfather always said it. How interesting, you know? But I do want to make this clear that this is just me just sharing my experience a little bit, you know? That this is me sharing my experience of dealing with burnout, what it feels like to just be tired and just, it just feels like you're at the end. You're just at the end of yourself, that you got nothing left to give. And the reality is, yeah, you do. You have a race that still needs to get. You still have a race to run. I'm speaking to you in the audience. You still have a race to run. So keep running. Don't stop moving. Whether things get difficult or things are a little bit easy, don't get comfortable. The only way you will truly ever grow is when you step out of the comfort chair. When you get up and you walk. Or I would say run, really, because it's a race. Everyone has a race to run. All of our races are different, but everyone has a race to run. If you are still breathing, if you are still alive and well, then you have a race to run, buddy. Whether you want to believe it or not, you got a race to run. And that's just the reality of it. You got a race to run. And yes, that doesn't mean burnout won't come and go. I get it that this year has been difficult, especially imagine how first responders and medical workers feel. Imagine how essential workers feel. Dude, or gal. This has been a hard year on everyone. It's not surprising that you're burnt out, but you're not alone when you're going through it. There's people that can relate to you. You just have to be willing to reach out a little bit and just open up. And I always feel like that's the easiest way to combat things like this, like things that come, like ways of combating depression, anxiety, burnout. Talk to somebody. Open up to somebody. Say, hey, man, or gal, this is how I've been feeling. And I want to share with you how I've been feeling because I just need someone to talk to. And I always feel like that is one of the best ways to deal with things like that, is when you're willing to go out of your way, stepping out of your comfort zone to talk to somebody, share, open up, because you'd be surprised on what you end up finding out, on how similar people's experiences are to yours. That people are going through things that unless you open up, you may never know. And that's just the reality, because I always feel like as human nature, if someone opens up to you, you end up feeling a bit inclined to open up yourself. And I just feel like that's just a beautiful thing, like just being open, being honest with one another, being vulnerable to one another, and having those kind of healthy conversations that lead to healthy friendships, healthy relationships, that lead to healthy marriages, that lead to healthy growth as individuals. And then it leads to a healthy group as people. And that's what we like to promote around here. We like to promote healthy growth as individuals first, because that's what matters, is you as an individual first must be in a healthy place in every aspect of your life before you can get out of your circle and help someone else. That's just the reality of it. You can't help someone if you haven't helped yourself. But that's all I got for you guys for this one. Like I said, I wanted to make this a two-parter. This part is primarily focused on my experience of dealing with burnout and how I felt and what I've been dealing with. But I just want to encourage you guys with this, that you're not alone. You're not going through this alone. Yes, this is a lesson, or I would say an experience that you have to go through by yourself, but you are not alone in the matter. That doesn't mean there's nobody there that doesn't understand how you feel. I encourage you to open up to people, open up to your community group. And if you don't have a community group, make a community, group. Find people that you trust and that you want to open up to, and hold each other accountable. Like, talk to each other, see how everyone's day is going, see how they're dealing with certain things in their life. Open up to them. Be open, be vulnerable, be honest and thoughtful and intentional with your interactions, because I guarantee you're going to see some wonderful things when you do that. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. I really, really do appreciate it. We're going to take our time with the second part of the real talk, talking about burnout, because we got a lot of people to talk to. But I do hope that you guys come back and listen to Friday's episode. We're going to be talking about Nintendo and how they've been handling the Smash Brothers community, because my God, it is a pretty bad situation. But again, I love you guys. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you guys for constantly listening, downloading, sharing, doing whatever you want with these episodes. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube, click the like, dislike button, subscribe, bell notification. You guys already know the jazz, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you to all the Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. I greatly appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And I will see you guys Friday. Bye, guys. I love you. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.